And we back. And we back. Hey folks, how you doing? Oh, let me throw some let's listen to music. I usually don't listen to music when I'm doing lives, but I'm gonna put some on. Hopefully Spotify doesn't hit me. What's up? How was everyone's weekend? Let's do that. Happy Monday. Okay, be for real. How many of you in the chat hate Monday? How many of you hate Mondays? How many of you really don't like Mondays? Hi, Belle. Happy your weekend was good. Too much here. How many of you hate Monday? I really want to know. Genuinely, I want to know. How many of you dislike Monday for whatever reason? Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's the energy of Monday. Usually because it's people's jobs that they hate Mondays. But let me know if you hate Monday. Say something in the chat. It's sunny today. It's sunny today here too as well. I like them. I need the structure. Great. Dang it. I got a bunch of positive people. Oh, no. I'm totally fine with that. If you love Monday, Monday is fine to me. I used to take myself out on happy hours on Monday just to make fun. Love Mondays. Great. So I didn't really have an intention with asking that. I was genuinely curious. Do you guys like Mondays or do you not like Mondays? Personally, I love Mondays. And the reason I love Mondays is because Monday is the start of my work week. And for me, my work is really fulfilling. I get to help people with human design. I get to help people with Reiki. I get to help people with doing something that I'm really passionate about and I care about. And by passionate, I mean that I suffer for it. That's the root word of passion is passio, which in Latin means to suffer. And so when a lot of people talk about passion, they're talking about unknowingly, they're talking about I'm willing to suffer for this thing, or at least that's what the word means. Now, when it comes to Monday for me, I love Monday because I wake up and I'm excited to come here, TikTok live, and connect with y'all. That's one of my favorite things to do is connect with y'all, because there's so many people that are discovering human design for the first time, or they're discovering Reiki for the first time, which are the two things that I really have found to be some of the most helpful systems in the new age space, for personal discovery, for confidence, for self-love, for self-acceptance. Human design and Reiki are the main things. And so when it comes to Mondays, right? Again, the reason I ask is because I know there's a lot of people that don't like Mondays. And I want to hopefully, with this little introduction to human design or session, whatever, give you an invitation into a life that's actually yours. See, with human design, and let me pull up a body graph here real quick. One of the biggest pain points, one of the biggest challenges that human design helps with is this feeling of not really living your own life. You might be living, you might feel like you're living a life that is for somebody else. And this is similar to what I would talk about in terms of Mondays. Is a lot of people wake up and they are not stoked. They are not stoked to be doing the things that they have to do on Mondays. And if you have something that you're actually stoked to do, then you wake up and you're excited to do it. And it sounds simple, but one of the things about sleep is like so many people like just work to get to the end of the day so that they can sleep so that they don't have to live their waking life. Other people use sleep as a way to build energy for their waking life. But it's the same day. It's the same Monday. It's the same sleep, right? It's the same energy. What's different about it is the angle that you're hitting it from. And so let's see. Karina wants to know how to get rid of ego. You're not going to get rid of ego. You're not. The ego is not something that you want to get rid of. And really, what it is, it's like if you could think about it like this, okay? The ego is habitualized things, right? The ego is, if you could imagine when you were first learning to drive, and if you don't know how to drive yet, this if this might not make as much sense, but when you're first learning to drive or when you're first learning to do anything, you're all hands and feet, you're all like looking at the road, you're doing all these different things, right? You're balancing all these things in your mind consciously. The ego is when we are actually able to develop a sort of like pattern so that we don't have to consciously pay attention to, okay, I'm going to turn 10 and 2, put some foot on the gas. Like now people can like text and drive, which hopefully you don't do, but it shows us how powerful the ego is. The ego just takes things and it's looking at what we do on a daily basis and it's asking, what can we automate? What can we make automatically happen? Right? And so you don't want to get rid of your ego because then you get rid of your use of language, you get rid of manners, you get rid of how to drive a car, you get rid of how to play an instrument, all the things that you can naturally do and get better at. It's because of your ego. And so what you really need to do is start looking at the impact of your ego, because in human design this is where the ego is. And this is the only reason why we are here today. The ego ensures survival on the material plane in the form of social hierarchies, in the form of accumulation of materials, right? Do we have enough water to survive the winter? That's the kind of stuff that the ego is concerned about. And so, Jenny, what's up at the side gig today and listening? Great, great, great. So happy to have you here. Thanks for the dinos. So when it comes to ego, the ego is just the immature version of the soul, because you can think of ego in a handful of ways. Like on one side, the ego is right. A lot of people view the ego as the enemy because it's the thing that's like, oh, instead of choosing happiness, I'm choosing my ego, right? Oh, why did I fight with my partner? I should have just swallowed my ego and just admitted I was wrong, etc. And a lot of people will blame the ego for the challenges or the problems in their life. The problem with that is if you blame the ego, but you separate yourself from the ego and you try and get rid of the ego, now you're blaming something externally rather than saying, oh, my ego, my patterns, my habits are causing these terrible things to happen. It's not my ego's fault. It's me and my patterns, because your ego is just a compilation of your patterns and your habits. And so if you want to get rid of the ego or get rid of the problems that the ego cause, you have to become more aware of your ego, which is where human design comes in. Human design is going to show you where your body naturally has what's called definition, which is like, for instance, in this body graph, one of the main things that we can point out is that this person has a defined sacral, meaning that for this person, if they want to like use their ego in a healthy way, they're actually going to have to tap into the wisdom of their sacral, which is considering, oh, uh-huh, or uh-uh. And it's that simple, uh-huh or uh-uh. If they're constantly going against that gut response, their ego is going to be very inflated or very deflated, and they're going to have problems. In human design, is the concept of ego less psychological? Yes and no. Like it's less psychological in the sense that for the ego, you're looking at four gates. You're looking at being in control, you're looking at being first, you're looking at the will to be the best, and the will to deliver. So the ego's primary function in human design and in the body graph is to essentially make sure that the tribe, or like the group of people that do the same things that you do and believe in the same things that you do, are like identifying like who's leading that, and do we have enough, like who's in control of it, Who was the first one to come up with the idea? Who is the best at it? Who is delivering? So it's very much so about delivering in the material world, or like work now, play later, or I said I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do this. And yeah, so the ego is a lot less psychological than like normal, like new age stuff, because it is very much so about exerting one's will into the world, but it also is still very psychological, right? Especially because we're dealing with interpersonal relationships, which is psychological. Vacation was good, Jenny. Thanks for asking. Uncomfortable soul, hello. Yeah, vacation was great. I just got back yesterday, and I am tired. Um, we ended up doing a lot of really beautiful light work for the family, and my partner's family over there in Oahu, and it was wonderful. It stretched me. It definitely grew me a lot, pushed me to some of my edges, which I feel like vacations and traveling does that. So anyway, Wolf Kai, my ego left the building then. LOL, I can't assert. Well, right. So it's like if your ego, and this is the thing, is a lot of people talk about the danger of an inflated ego, but what about the danger of a deflated ego? Right? What about the danger of like not being confident enough? What about the danger of not believing in yourself, or not like fighting for the things that you care about? And again, what human design shows us really is to where to resource this energy from. Because someone with a defined heart like this, right? And especially with this channel right here, this is the kind of person that is essentially they're programmed to engage their will into the world, to bring their will directly into manifestation through this 2145 line. That's why this is known as the money line, right? And if you check your body graph and see this money line is not necessarily about making a bunch of money. It's about being in control of resources, and it's about gathering resources and delegating resources. Basically, I can't get stuff done even to survive. All right. So one of the things that you want to look at with your body graph when it comes to survival is the spleen. And if you're like this person where you have a completely undefined spleen, this is one of those things where if you have a completely undefined spleen, one of the things that you're really going to be susceptible to is if there are people in your life that are healthy and taking care of themselves or not, because that's going to reflect on you. Rob, how does heartbreak affect your ego, and how would you let it go? So the best thing you can do when it comes to heartbreak is let yourself be, and it depends, it's different for each person, but a lot of people want to skirt over the heartbreak, right? They want to like get to the point where they feel better already. But understand that the faster you get to I feel better, the less time you're going to have, and the awareness you're going to glean from why do I feel so terrible, right? And one of the things about relationships, quote unquote, like ending, is a lot of the times people are focused on like what they did wrong, rather than like what was right, because it's painful to remember, oh, this was so good and that was so good. And so a lot of people will just like um, go distract themselves or try and get to that place where they feel happy again. My advice to someone that's going through heartbreak is don't try and rush the process. It's an emotional process, and what you need to do is you need to grieve the parts about the relationship that were good. Grieve the thing, like look through the pictures. Don't just go in and delete them immediately. This is my advice. Like, let yourself move through multiple emotional waves on it, because that's a natural process that we have to do when something was good and we enjoyed it, right? We have to move through this grief, and grief is an action. Grief is a verb, it's not a noun. Okay, it's not a thing. Grief is something that you do. So learn how to let yourself grieve the relationship, because that is going to be the best way to actually let it go. Trauma is removed from the body via the water molecules leaving the body. So tears are good, sweating is good, screaming is good. Water vapor. Can you talk about a completely undefined G center as a reflector, or just as entered energy type? So the G center right here, right? This is like the GPS. If you have a completely undefined G center, we call that like no gates at all. That's called an open G. And when it comes to having an open G, it's like pretty much anyone can enter an address on your GPS, right? Versus having a defined G, like you entered the address that you want to go in your direction, and it's you follow that. With an G, it's like anyone can enter any address in there, and it's even being around them or being inspired by them or living, you might end up going in the same direction as them. And so you can think of it like planting a flower, right? If you plant a flower in an environment where it can't actually thrive, like the seed and the makeup of the flower is not suited for wherever you planted it, that's what you have to be very mindful of with the undefined G center, that you're not planting your seed in environments that are not actually proper for you. Now when it comes to the G center, this helps us track ourselves through time and space, right? So there's a velocity, there's a direction, there's an identity, there's looking forward and looking backwards. And really, what you want to do is you just want to become aware of the direction and the identity of the people around you, right? And same thing with any of these undefined centers. Like, one of my greatest skills as a reflector is to be able to recognize, like, oh, this person follows their sacral, or this person speaks when they need to speak, this person moves in the direction that they need to move regardless of the environment. So the more I'm tuned into that, the less likely I am to follow somebody else, because I've created a differentiation between myself and them. If you're not doing this with the undefined G center, you're looking at your friends and you're comparing yourselves to them rather than contrasting, celebrating. You're comparing yourself to them. So be very mindful about comparison, especially the more open centers you have, the more undefined centers you have. Be very mindful about the comparison, because comparison is the thief of joy, right? We're all different. And if you don't have your body graph already, just go to my website, plug in your information, generate your body graph, because this will tell you so much about yourself, some stuff that you didn't even know. And one of the things that I always say is, don't just like let this be it, right? Like, experiment with it. If you have this body graph, the one that you guys see behind me, defined sacral, G, throat, and heart, and you're not tuning into your sacral, you're not doing, for instance, the sacral calibrations that I put forward on my videos, right? If you're not tuning into your direction, if you're not tapping into your charisma, if you're not tapping into the resources around you, if you're not exerting your will in the world in accordance with your strategy, which is to follow your sacral, right? You're probably moving through a lot of other people's emotions. You're probably spending time thinking about stuff that doesn't matter. You're probably rushing through life just to relieve the pressure. You're probably just doing all these different things or following all these different health trends to try and stay healthy rather than just following your gut. The idea with human design is that, like, experiment with how human design tells you to live. And if that doesn't completely blow your mind, then don't do it. There's thousands, probably more, like hundreds of thousands of people doing this. And it's like, yes, mirroring, exactly. Like, if you're unconsciously mirroring people through these undefined centers, your life is going to be like you're just like an outsourced factory for other people's manifestations. If you're mirroring consciously with these undefined centers, then it's like you are helping people, but you're not totally letting go of who you are. Golden Empress, I just sent you an email. Hello, is your app on Play Store or Apple? So yes, the app is on the Play Store and the Apple Store. If you guys go through the link in my website, it will save you 25% off the subscription, which is not much. Honestly, it's like $37 is the subscription fee. But if you go through mine, it's like $26. So it will save you some money. But it's the same app, same exact app. Could you speak about what it means to have line 45 but not 21? I have that. Marvin, I have that. And Miss Nina Koo, this is human design. This is a body graph. What's up, Reflector Crystal? And this body graph it shows us basically like the energetic substructure of each individual based off their time of birth. Now, Marvin B. Swaggin, that's a great name. I have the 45, but no 21. So the way this shows up, that's called a hanging gate. Like, you can see these gates in here. These are called hanging gates. Having the 45, but no 21 means that we're going to gather resources, but we're not necessarily going to be the ones in control of them, or we're more likely to be able to look at the resources and discern who's best suited to be in control of those resources than to be the ones that are actually in control of the resources ourselves. It might also might also find ourselves in situations where, again, because we have half the bridge 45, which this is about gathering resources, this is about discerning the boundaries. We might have the awareness or the language to set the boundaries, but we don't actually have the energy to set the boundaries. So one of the ways that you can simplify this whole process is each of these centers has a type. This is pressure, head, and root. These are energy centers: root, sacral, heart, solar plexus. This is the manifestation center. And then we have awareness centers: spleen, ajna, solar plexus. Then there's the G center, which is the identity center. So, for instance, when you have an energy center connected to the throat, now you have the energy, right, to manifest, right? If you don't have it, like let's say you have the 22, which I have the 22, right? Still find center, but I'm more inclined to like have the energy to be open, but not necessarily to manifest that openness super well all the time. What's the difference between the connected lines and half the lines? You can think of them like bridges. They're literally like bridges. They're circuits, okay? So it's like, for instance, this person has the 13 but no 33. This person might be really, how you say, a lot of people like tell them their secrets, right? Like they're really trustworthy. But without the 33, they might not actually know what to keep secret and what not to keep secret, right? Like you might be telling, like, if let's say if you're talking to this person, you might be telling them all this stuff, and it might be obvious for you, maybe because you have the 33, it might be obvious for you, oh, I want to keep this a secret. But if you don't tell them, hey, I need you to keep this a secret, they might not think it's that big of a deal, and they might just share it with people. So same thing with the 45. So for instance, again, I have the 45, so I've been tracking this for a long time. There's so many situations when I know exactly what needs to get done, I know exactly what boundaries need to be set, but I don't have the authority or the energy or the discernment of like, do I set the boundary now? Do I not set the boundary now? I'm not really sure. And so in my life, the way I've adapted to that was not by trying to be in control. In fact, I let go of that. I'm thinking if people want to interact with me, I'm going to let them ask me or let me know, hey, I want to be in control of this. And at that point, I'll say, great, this is my chunk here. This is great. And this is part of my strategy as a reflector, waiting 28 days, which sounds absolutely crazy. But when you realize that we as human beings only very rarely, only the manifestors, but even the manifestors, like very rarely are we able to manifest things that are worthwhile in our own of ourselves. It's always in response to something. It's always as a result of waiting for an invitation. It's always as a result of waiting for 28 days or a manifestor initiates it, right? What is this based off? So this is based off of, you see, astrological symbols. So astrology, these numbers come from the I Ching. These channels come from the Kabbalah, and then the actual centers themselves come from the Hindu Brahmin chakra system. Lucy, thank you for sharing the live. If you guys are enjoying this, do me a favor, tap the screen. Tap the screen. It helps the algorithms show us to more people, which ultimately is what we want. Because again, this is, and if you guys are seeing this for the first time, what I want to say is it's very natural to be overwhelmed by this. There's so much information in here, which is a good thing. Okay, it's good that you're overwhelmed. It's new. It's something you can be a student at. It's something that you can learn about over time, right? And if you don't know the hour of the birth, what you want to do is go to this app. So I have a link for the app in my bio. It's called Neutrino Design. But if you go to the link in my bio and click the button there that says Human Design mobile app, you'll be taken to a subscription page. 26 bucks for the entire year. So 26 bucks for the whole year. That's like probably like $3 or $4 a month for this app. And just enter your birth information on the app, and then you'll see these sliders up there. I can't really point to them, but it's up there. There'll be an option for you to do what's called birth time rectification, which will ask you some questions and will help you narrow down a window. So I bought a whole breakdown of mine. What can I use it for? So the best thing that human design is used for is it's used as sort of like an experiment guide, right? it's like a recipe guide, right? So for instance, this person right here, their strategy and authority, which are the two like beginning experiments that you have to do, is following your sacral. So tuning into the those sensations. Um, how is this, or was this channeled? Is it, how is it calculated? Has it been tested? So Rafa, we the only tests that we have in terms of verifying whether or not human design is legit is our own lives. I've been studying human design for almost 10 years now. I've been using my strategy for almost 10 years now, and my life now is a lot better than it was. And it's like there's no like verified tests really that you can rely on other than your own, right? So Rafa, what I would recommend is you get a body graph, you figure out what your strategy and authority is, and you spend the next 28 days like viciously loyal to your strategy and authority, and you see where the discrepancies are, right? You're only going to verify this for yourself. You're not going to be able to hear some about somebody else's experience and be like, oh, that works for you, it must work for me as well. You have to test it out for yourself, right? So keep getting birthing ahs and oohs in my head. Oh, interesting. But also this was a channeled um work. This is a channeled work, is what it is. And it's not even that long ago. It was how you say in 87. What's your take on tuning into your sacral with an undefined sacral? So as an undefined sacral, I'm a reflector, so all of my centers are white. I tune into my sacral a lot. It's one of the most like visceral sensations that I get as human beings, as we get. And so tuning into my sacral, I don't do it to make decisions. I do it to just tune into it because it's a part of my body, right? When it comes to making decisions, I spend a lot of time contemplating it, and I tune. Sometimes I tune into my sacral. Other times I'm going to tune more into my emotions. Other times I'm going to tune into my spleen. But the key with having an undefined sacral is not letting your defined, or not letting the sacral be the thing that's driving the ship. Because a lot of the times that sacral is going to be flavored by all the other people around you. So when I tune into my sacral, I'm looking at the people around me, or I'm looking at where really like, whose energy is this tuning into, because a lot of time my sacral is tuning into other people's energy. So it takes time essentially. And so when I get like a ooh, I'm not second guessing myself, but I'm tuning in more deeply to the it's like okay, do I really want to do that? If I can dig deeper into the sacral, what is deeper down in the sacral? Because it's my belief that our sacral sounds exist, they're just underneath everybody else's. And if we go with the first initial sacral hit that we get, a lot of the time that's going to be based off somebody else and not actually our own sacral. So I just tapped my screen until my finger hurt. Oh, thank you. One of the things I will say, if you go like this with your fingers rather than like tapping the screen like that, I feel like it's less crazy. I totally have been seeing these like freaking auto tappers, and I'm like, Jenny, maybe we should get some of those, because those tappers are so cool. I mean, you just get like a thousand likes in like a couple seconds. Anyway, do I study gene keys? So I do not study gene keys. And it's not because it's a bad system. It's just the focus on form. If human design, I think, is more valuable than the contemplation of the gene keys. Not that the gene keys aren't valuable, but it's again, the ability to visually see what the form is going to be like, and experiment with what is the form. How can I surrender more deeply? Because again, human design is just here to like help us save time and energy, in the sense that there's so many different ways that a human being can be happy depending on their circuitry, and we each have our own unique way. Human design just says, hey, look, before you experiment with doing, Guru Sadnanda's 3,000-hour program, or so and so's ayahuasca trip in the desert, start tuning into your own strategy and authority first and see what it is. I was looking at getting my genome read, but it's expensive. Can be expensive, yeah. My reports are $20, guys. If you want a full breakdown of this, it's $20. If you want a full breakdown of this plus an introduction to human design and a like a list of techniques of like how to bring this into your daily life, that's $35. The app is $26. my biggest gripe with like spirituality and stuff is that things are super expensive. My time is very expensive, but access to this information is super accessible. So, and I've done a lot of work to like make that happen for you guys. So if you want to support the work that I do and get information on your body graph, go to my website, generate your body graph, and then you'll see the options to buy the report. Again, made my reports thinking like I don't want this person to have to spend money for the next like year and a half. I want to give them of spiritual growth for 35 bucks. That was my intention with, and I've been in this like spiritual realm. Like I woke up in college back in 2012 and I'm 31 now. It's 2024. So it's been a dozen years, right? And I've narrowed down like the best, and I've done the plant medicines, I've done the yoga stuff, I've done the breath work, I've done the healing retreats, I've done the somatic workshops, I've done all this stuff, guys. And the very best stuff I will tell you is here in human design, it's in Reiki, and it's in biomechanics, which is a specific type of movement that is trying to get us back to walking, running, and throwing as our primary movement patterns because we're so identified with the chair and we're so identified with the 10,000 likes. Wonderful, guys. Um, yeah, we're looking to remember what it's like to be human, right? And these are our tools: Reiki, human design, and biomechanics. Which, if you want to be a part of like this shift and you want to get involved with um this community, I actually have a very cool community. It's called the Archive. It's 11 bucks a month, and it's a community for learning as well as discussion. So if you want to learn more about the physical exercises that I do, which we actually, let's do one right now. Let's do one right now, guys. So what you're going to do, real simple, is you're just going to take your hands, the palms of your hands, you're going to rub them together. What's the biggest change in your life within you since you started integrating human design in your life? The biggest change was really learning how to embrace my uniqueness, right? Embrace the fact that everyone is different than me. Okay. And I'll talk more about it after this exercise because that's actually a really good question. Ultimately, I'm finding more freedom and surprise in my life. And I'm also finding more contentment, like more acceptance. So after you rub your palms together, they're going to get nice and hot. Put your hands on your palms and you can put your fingers in your hair. But what we're going to do is like we're trying to pop our head off like we're a Lego. Okay. So pop your head off like you're a Lego. Now, while your hands are pulling up, what you're going to do is you're going to use these muscles right here to try and suck your head into your body like a turtle. So you're going to breathe your shoulders down and back. You're going to try and pop your head off like a Lego. And then you're going to try and suck your head back into your body. So you got two forces, one going up, one going down. Now, as you're doing this, what you're going to do is that your eyes gaze upward and you're going to take a swallow. And you're going to find that it's harder to swallow than normal. And you're going to do 3 swallows. Inhale, swallow, exhale. Inhale, swallow, exhale. Inhale, swallow, exhale. And that's going to help with anything related to the head, whether that's overthinking or underthinking or anything. And what does it do? You have to find out for yourself. I'm not saying that to be clever. It's just that it'll do different things for different people, right? So, for instance, if there's too much head pressure, right? Like in human design, we have what's called head pressure. This is what to think about. This is how to think about it. So, for instance, if your head is undefined or your ajna is undefined as well, you might have a lot of other people's thoughts floating around in your head. What this is going to do is it's going to make it clearer which thoughts are actually yours and which thoughts are coming from other people, or which pressure is actually yours and which pressure is coming from other people, right? Like, for instance, when you're around certain people, especially people that are workaholics, right, or entrepreneurs, there's always this like pressure to think. You know what I mean? And it relieves some head tension for me immediately, and I have an undefined ajna. Thank you. You're welcome. So that's what I mean is like instead of asking what it does, do it and see what it does for you. And this is my whole premise on human design, right? It's because spirituality is not having a teacher and the teacher telling you what these things are going to do for you, how it's going to benefit you. Spirituality is seeing what something does for you for yourself. And that's what human design does. And that's the mentality of it as well. Because again, my shoulders were burning though. Awesome. So one of the other things that you can think about while you're doing this, right, is if you can get your arms wider and your shoulders further down, you can actually use your core to drive upwards rather than just your shoulders. Right? Like if you just isolate the energy in your shoulders will get tired. But if you drop your shoulders into your back and you let your what do you call it? The shoulder blade actually rest on your lungs, and you use your breathing to drive. That's not me lifting my shoulders. That's my lungs lifting my rib cage expanding. And so this is again, and this is something that there's a bunch of videos in my community called the archive. There's a bunch of videos in there that teach stuff like this, and we're linking it all to human design. So this is another experiment for us to work with a group of people who are going to really help us pioneer the bridging, because this is head and this is mental information, this is knowledge, stuff that you put in your head. This All these different exercises that I am doing here, right? There's all these different exercises that we're doing that we're like linking to the gates. Okay, we're doing exercises that are relevant to your body graph. And so this is kind of the mission that we're on. And by we, I mean you and me. But it's definitely related to somatic release, and that's actually why it was created. Because me and my partner Pasha, he's my homie Wolf. I'm super happy you're here. I'm super happy you're new, because again, there's a lot of other people that are new as well. And again, there's so many. One of the reasons why we started doing this was because there's so many people that are learning about human design and teaching human design, and it's all just spinning the gears of the mind. And no offense to anybody that's doing that, but at some point we have to bring it into the body. Human design is about surrendering to the form. It's about embracing the physical vessels that we have. And if you don't do that, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that human design can actually do for you. And so we're looking to, again, expedite this process by simply exploring what workouts work for what centers. Like, again, this one is really good for people with undefined head and ajna. Now, it doesn't mean it's bad for people with defined head and ajna. It just does something different for them, right? Like maybe it's going to tune them in. I don't know, because I have an undefined head and ajna, right? And so this is the thing, is like the only person who is an authority in this is yourself, and because it's your body and your experience. Now, if for instance, two people have undefined ajnas and the exercise does something different for them, we're just going to document that. We're not trying to how you say um, manipulate and invent something new. We're just looking to remember, what are the things I need to do for myself so that I feel like myself. Being a 1-3 emotional manifester, oh, is a journey. Let me tell you, never a dull moment ever. My daughter is a emotional manifester, and she's only 2, but things have gotten very real uh, over the past month. And the thing about like emotional beings, right, is like so much of your life is here to like teach you about patience and to teach you about the truth. And this process of really like somatic release, because the solar plexus is a diaphragm, right? It's compressing and it's relaxing, and it's compressing and it's relaxing. And one of the things is when it's really compressing and there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of heat, like one of the things that people like tend to shy away from is being too emotional, because certain people don't like it when they're too emotional. The problem is not that you're too emotional, but that you're being emotional in the wrong setting. Like you're being emotional with the person that makes you emotional, and you're wanting to be accepted by them, but now you're also exhibiting behavior that is irrational and ungrounded, and it is emotional. Just take your emotions somewhere safe. Usually safe is like where you can actually be alone to process your emotions. Be alone and cry, right? And don't if you're sad, don't like put happy music on and try and make yourself feel better or get high or get drunk. Like, be sad, put sad music on, let yourself get to the end of your emotional wave. And this has all been well studied in somatic therapies. Like, you have to get to the end of your emotional wave, you have to express it. Otherwise, you're constantly going to be explaining it to people. It'll never actually get processed because you're explaining, not expressing, and then it'll be stuck in you for a long time. What do you think of having resistance to the physical and fixing that? I used to have a lot of resistance to being like physical straight up, because I was disgusted by the form, and I was disgusted by this, but I am a human being, and was a human being making those same shitty choices. And so when it comes to resistance with the physical, this is where it's like, how you say, um, you can exist without this harmony, but the life just sucks. You know what I mean? It's just not, it's not as good as if you and with your body, like you actually have a movement practice. And so, Wolfkai, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more, I'd love to talk more about it. So you speak in this video about about aura and how it reacts to others. Can this be a reason why you're just meeting someone? I can tell easily whether we're going to have chemistry or not, or if I push it and doesn't work. Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, is part of what human design as well does is when you surrender to the physical body and you become acquainted and familiar with, oh, there's some achy pains there's some like tenseness there's some looseness here, you can also start to become aware of when subtle energies shift. So literally, when someone walks into your aura, there might be an immediate like, ew, right? Ew. Don't force yourself to spend time with that person. A lot of people will do this. They'll do the opposite. Someone will come into their field, they'll go, ew, and then they'll be like, well, that's not very nice. Let me make an effort to be nice to this person. And then they summon all this energy that they don't have to be nice to someone that they don't really want to like. And then the other person is like, why is this person being so fake? So anyway, yeah. Would you say an undefined center is designed to contain other people's energy? What's the purpose? Yes. So the undefined centers are designed to experience emotions, survival, thinking by way of other people's way of doing things. Right. And it's a sense of like, if you ask the question, like, what's an original feeling? What's an original thought? And what is something that's borrowed from another human being? One is not more valuable than the other. And in fact, for instance, in this body graph, original sacral responses, original direction, original manifestation, original charisma, original, how you say, willpower, that is what's most valuable to this person. Other people's emotions, other people's stress, other people's survival instincts, other people's thoughts, those are also valuable, right, to this person. What's not really as valuable is their own emotions, their own stress, their own. And it's not the sense that to say that they don't have those parts about themselves that are there. What it means is it's there's a confusion that happens when you attempt to make decisions with your emotions rather than just being aware of other people's emotions. Doesn't mean you don't have emotions, but it's like if you're moving through emotional energy, right, and you have an undefined solar plexus, look at the people around you. See who's the emotional energy is tied to, right? Don't attempt to define or identify with the emotions and the feelings that you're feeling. What's up? How we doing? Celia, I've been smoking for 28 years and have a hard time regulating. So interesting experiment, and it just came up recently. For smoking and addiction, check out black pepper or black pepper oil. Start working with black pepper oil. Um, it's a hot oil, so don't like rub it on your face, but just the smell of it, like when the addiction comes up, do that. Another thing that is really helpful for addiction, especially like oral fixations and smoking, is mechanics on the face. Right. So like this exercise that we were just doing right here, whenever you feel the addiction, instead of like going to smoke, and this is if you want to stop smoking, right? Go do some of these exercises. And again, I have these videos. Actually, I have some of my daily practice videos here on TikTok, but it's only for the subscribers, which I think is like $6 a month or something like that. um and so yeah, go for that. Soft tissue is also really important. It really helps with addiction as well, because there's these like sensations of release that really feel good. Um, the more it's more with the regulation, right? Okay, so yeah, a lot of people will use smoking to specifically, smoking is one of the ways that we will avoid grieving, because smoking and releasing smoke out the mouth, releasing vapors out of the mouth, releasing water out of the mouth, again, is it's an act of almost like pseudo grieving, right? Again, grieving is an act. So when it comes to your emotions, instead of actually feeling the emotions, you can go to you know, feeling the high, or feeling the, is it tobacco or the other thing. um so when it comes to that, it's like it's really important to know, because smoking inherently in and of itself is not, and people knock me for saying this, but it's not inherently bad. It's really challenging when you are habitually using the smoke as a way of avoiding doing the grief work that you have to do, or avoiding the emotions that you have to. And there's no trick around it. Like, the only way to process emotions is to like somatically move through the emotional waves. Like, that's pretty much it. Let's see, Cat Moon, do I do one-on-ones and small group sessions? So I do, yeah, all of that, honestly. Like, if you had a couple friends that wanted to book a session, I'd be open to doing that. um, I do relationship sessions. I do one-on-one sessions. So yeah, Cat Moon, to go over anger issues and other things, specifically those that seem can be passed from generation. Right. So the generational anger or the ancestral traumas, right, that we're talking about. Again, a lot of the times it's going to appear in these undefined centers of like your dad's emotional waves, or your mother's fear, or your dad's way of thinking. And you're not going to be able to see that typically unless you're like actually looking for it. And again, human design will tell you exactly where to look for it. Probably pushed all the waves away with cigarettes. Yeah, it makes sense. And one of the things about life that is also really helpful is like you're at where you're at, right? One of the biggest hurdles to overcome in like making yourself better is just accepting where you're at, right? Because if you're like here, this is just like, it's not human design right now. This is just arbitrary. If you're like over here and you want to get here, but you think you're over here, you might start moving in this direction to get to where you want to go. But if you're actually here and you're moving in this direction, you're moving away from where you want to go. So one of the biggest things that you need to do is actually sit down and take account of where you're at. Probably pushed escapism. Yeah, and that's escapism. And again, it's like you're the only man who has ever made sense to me. It's pretty good. Awesome. I'm happy, Billy. Appreciate you. And I've been studying this for 12 years, or not 12 years, 10 years now, guys. So it's something, it's a language that has become part of my language. Do you parent differently knowing your daughter's chart? Totally. 100%. Yeah. My daughter is an emotional authority. And this is just in general, I would say, but especially true for emotional authority beings is, and when they're young, my daughter is really young, right? When she's in her emotional wave, I don't try and stop it or suppress it. The main thing that I'm doing is I'm actually doing my best not to let her emotional waves shake me. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing my best to regulate my own nervous system, because when it comes to her emotional waves, that is her regulating her nervous system. If I attempt to shush her or calm her down or do any of this stuff to suppress her emotional wave, there's a lot of unintended damage that I will be doing. And I feel like a lot of people grew up doing this, or having this done to them. Is when we're experiencing something that makes us upset, right? They're not actually being given permission to feel whatever it is that they're feeling. And so I do my best as a parent to do that. She pisses me off sometimes. Sometimes I want to throw her little ass through a wall. But of course, number one, I'm not going to do that. But number two, I'm not going to let her see that that's what I want to do, right? I'm not. I want to teach her safety and security, right? I'm the same as your daughter, been called oversensitive my whole life, right? So Rachel, and the thing is, you will continue to be called oversensitive until you actually, as an adult, learn how to process an emotion. Because as a child, we don't know how to process emotions as children. My daughter doesn't know how to process emotions, right? As she gets older, there's going to be learning opportunities for her to actually learn how to process her emotions. She's going to learn what's actually going on, because emotions are, it's just this like churning energy that's just like, hey, here's the truth. You wanted this to happen, but this happened, right? Or you like this person, but they didn't like you back, right? And so that made you emotional. Right, and so it's like 40 and I still don't know. Yeah, it's really about, again, you discover human design, or you have your awakening whenever you have your awakening. And a lot of the times people are like, oh, like I'm so far behind, but it's like you can't get to, Z without going through A, B, C, D. It's really hard, and they know how to push those buttons. So one of the things that I would say with emotions is, whenever you're feeling emotional, one of the main things that you want to do is you want to identify feeling emotional, right? And when you're in emotional, it's almost like this or this like separate space outside. Here is your internal physical biological reality, health and wellness. This is the world around you. This is everything else. This is interpersonal relationships. This is your connection with spirituality and God. So this is already in and of itself outside of normal reality, right? And what you want to do with that is let yourself go to that reality. Don't sit and try and talk it out with your partner or the person that's pushing your buttons. Just be like, yo, I'm in an emotional wave. Again, one of the most important steps. I'm in an emotional wave. I'm feeling emotional. I'm just going to take myself somewhere where I can be emotional without being judged, or without the fear of, you know, other people, thinking I'm too much, etc. And it's not, because it's not that you're too much, but when it comes to other people, like if you have your emotional process in front of somebody, there's a lot of things that the other person is going to do to regulate their own nervous system, thinking they're helping you, but in actuality they're just trying to like get you to stop crying because it makes them uncomfortable. You need to get away from those people. That's it. Do you believe in the afterlife? I'm an empath. Do I believe in the afterlife? I definitely believe in something after life. Definitely. um Rachel, yes, I love having personal time to sort out my feelings, right? And so again, you're already learning this. Now what human design can tell you is, depending on which channel you have, and also depending on your composite, because one of the things you can do with the app is actually take your body graph and put somebody else's body graph on top of it, which is pretty cool. And you get to see where, like, oh, maybe they have the 40 to your 37, and then again you can read all about it from the app. But what's super cool about taking responsibility for your emotions is that now there's nobody to blame, right? Now there's nobody to make you feel bad about the way that you feel. Now there's nobody to come in and like fix it for you. And one of the greatest things is that now there's nobody to help you tolerate your emotions. So you have to either become stronger and tolerate your emotions yourself, or forever be lost in escapism. And there's no like trick. Okay, it's like it's a choice. When you're feeling emotional, you either let the emotions move you, or you attempt to control God and the realities that are beyond your perception. You attempt to control something that you could never hope to control, and the only way to control something that you can't hope to control is to just run away from it. So anyway, it's so important to have your emotions, have a safe place for your emotions. So if you could only buy one, do you recommend the body graph or the app? Interesting. So, okay. So let's put it this way. If you want to learn human design and you want to like look at other people, actually, here's what I do. I would go to my website and I would get the report, because, and I would get the $35 report as well. I would either get the $35 report or I would get the app, because the $20 report is an analysis of your body graph, which is helpful, but the $35 report is like an introduction to human design and has all these techniques as well. So I would go for the report just because it's all laid out for you, right? The $35 report also tells you like a sequence of like, hey, here's, start experimenting with this for this long, then experiment with this for this long. Whereas the app just has a lot of information for you. You can tap and learn. It's helpful because you can like hold other people's charts and learn about them as well. But if you want to learn about yourself, get the Reiki report. My son having a hard time in school. He's a 1-3 splenic projector quadrite. Yeah, that makes sense. School is not an environment for education. School is an environment that creates citizens, right? And so it makes sense that your son is having a hard time in school, especially as a quad right splenic projector, because there's a lot of sick energy in school. There's a lot of kids, that don't know who they are. There's a lot of teachers teaching that don't know who they are or why they're teaching what they're teaching. And school is just, in general, is just a very unhealthy environment, in my opinion. Um, if you're looking to raise individuals, if you're looking to be like a part of the society at large, then I guess school is a good decision. But yeah, what part of school, by the way? It's like middle school, elementary school. He also has the defined head. So one thing is like a splenic projector. One of the things that might help him is walking and processing. Like processing while you're walking is pretty helpful. So one of the things that you might want to introduce, Celia, is when you guys get back from school, before going into the house, walking to help decompress, the energy, asking him questions like, what kind of invitations did you get today? Was there anything you wanted to do but you weren't invited to do it? Or did you feel any type of, those kinds of stuff? Being curious about our kids in a way where we're not trying to solve problems, but we're just looking to learn about their experience. Think about it that way. And the difference is like, okay, you're either going to be a fairy that is like asking him and is really curious and that he's happy to engage with, or you're going to be this detective that like is looking to fix something with him. You can decide who you want to be with the way that you answer or you ask questions, and the intention in. But walking is really good for human beings, period, because it helps to lower cortisol. It's also a way of having a break between going from school right into the house, right? Cool, that's great that you're the fairy. Donatella, so I'm not doing live readings yet. I might start that sometime this week or next week. But we're not doing live readings yet. If you want to get some information on your body graph, though, just go visit my website, reikimarco.com, plug in your birth information, and it'll pop you out one of these charts. There's two reports to choose from. I recommend the Reiki report, because it'll give you an analysis of your body graph, which the other one does, but it will also give you an introduction to human design and techniques on how to embody it. And my intention with creating the reports was to like make it so that you don't need to spend any more money on anything spirituality related for the next year and a half. All you have to do is just experiment with everything in the reports. Jasmine, self-projecting projector. So one of the things that you want to do is get comfortable with like talking to yourself. Celia, I did go on vacation. It was lit. It was really fun. Lot of experiences. Um, but for self-projecting projectors, like speak out loud, guide yourself. Talk to yourself in the mirror, journal, like very important to out of your head onto paper or into a voice memo or into a video recording, it back, right? Another thing with self-projected projectors, how you say, don't wait around for somebody to invite you to do the things that you want to do. Just go do those things, right? Like if you know you want to take ski lessons, don't wait for someone to invite you to go skiing. Take yourself skiing, and then while you're out there skiing, it's more likely that someone will invite you to do more skiing or to talk about human design or something like that. Can one do both test or maps and get more information? Can one do both test or maps? I don't understand that, Cat Moon. Sorry. Um, reflector here. Can you tell me something about a reflector? Right. So reflectors, we have fully undefined centers, right, as reflectors. And so one of the things that is really interesting, and one of the first things that you'll learn as a reflector, is that we're supposed to wait 28 days to make decisions. Now, this is big decisions. Okay, am I going to move in with someone? Am I going to start a new job? Am I going to be in a relationship with this person, etc.? You, it's for big things. It's not like what do you want to eat. But the reason why that is because for the Reiki ones you offer on your website. I still don't understand that. Could you rephrase the whole question? Can you do so if you do no, so okay, I say what you're asking. So the Reiki report will have everything that the custom report will have and more. So if you do the Reiki report, you'll get everything from the custom report plus some. I think that's what you're asking. Um, if I want to read a reflector friend, where should I focus? So one of the things that the reflector is really unconsciously good at is like mirroring your state, right? And so one of the things that you can ask a reflector is like, hey, how do you see me? Like that's one of the best ways you can connect with a reflector, because that's their natural state, is to reflect the environment that they're in, right? Does human design account for symptoms related to neurodivergency, like executive dysfunction, etc.? I definitely think so. In terms of, what I think neurodivergency is, in my own terms, not necessarily in the collectively agreed upon terms, but what I think it is it's a deregulation from the form, right? It's like maybe your mind works a certain way, but society says that that's broken. And the structure and the form of your mind and of your physical body don't match what society says is healthy and is normal. Um, to me, that's what a lot of neurodivergence, because like a lot of neurodivergency is, it's like it's just uncapitalized gains on differentiation that has yet to be accepted by society. That's the way I see it, right? You just got to find and experiment with something that is actually going to be natural for you and not just normal for the rest of the world. So I work on manifesting while having limited mental visualizations, which are very vivid. So when it comes to manifesting, visualizations are not nearly as important as feelings, right? Like for instance, if you were given the choice between visualizing yourself in the car of your dreams or the sensation and the feeling of being in the car of your dreams, I would say spend more time in the feeling rather than trying to visualize it. Again, not everybody is going to be like, close your eyes, vivid imagination. I'm not even that way. I'm more of a feeling type of person. So if I want to summon the experience of like seeing my daughter, right? I'm not going to picture my daughter's face. I'm going to feel in my body what it's like to hug her. I'm very audio oriented as well and smell oriented. So I'm going to conjure the smell, the sensation of the smell or the feelings, right, rather than the visuals. So manifesting as a projector, again, a lot of it has to do with being invited, right? Or putting yourself in a situation where you can be invited, which someone in here, I think it was Jasmine, I think it was you, who said like, that's great. I thought I had to wait for an invitation. You don't. You don't have to wait for an invitation to do something that you want to do. What you want to wait for an invitation for is doing things with other people, right? Like, let's say you want to be in a relationship with someone. That's the thing you wait for an invitation for. Or let's say you really want to like work, work with this company, right? That's the thing that you kind of want to wait for an invitation for. Now, there's nothing wrong with putting yourself in a situation where the invitations might be more fruitful. Like, for instance, if a company is hiring and they're like, we're hiring, don't be like, oh, I need to wait for a direct invitation to hire. Put an application in, right? But then once you're there, one of the things that you want to be aware of is that, like, am I actually being invited into this company? Are they able to acknowledge my skill set and recognize my skill set, or am I just another cog in the machine? Because if you're just another cog in the machine, again, that might be like satisfying for a generator, but probably for a projector, it's going to become very detrimental for you. Because I'm sure you're curious what that is. That's flight spray, which is basically just turmeric, spearmint, lime, and distilled water. Because I was on a plane yesterday. Can you tell us in what ways you tried to break the human design but you couldn't? That's a great question. So I've made a lot of decisions where I didn't, and again, it's like I tried to break the human design system with my own design, right? Like I have the strategy of a reflector, which is to wait 28 days. Celeste, hello, welcome. So happy you're following. By the way, thank you guys for all the likes. Appreciate that. Thank you for the dinos. We got like 37 dinos. 12 of 17 subscriptions. So one thing that I'm going to do as well is I am going to end the public live, but for any of the people that are subscribed to my channel, it's only like $6 per month. Um, we're gonna have probably like 30 minutes or something to chat in a more intimate container, so it'll be just for the subs or for the subscription here. So just heads up, if you guys want to subscribe and support what I do that through here TikTok. And also if you want to kind of have like more of these more exclusive lives, that's how you do it. The things that I one of the ways that I experiment was I was spending time like basically like making my gut decisions. Like if I saw something, I'd go, I'd want to do it. Like it would happen a lot with like dating, and I wouldn't wait for a lunar cycle to kind of like cycle the people out before I started to become more intimate with them. I just like went right into it, and that didn't work for me. And so for a handful of years, I was just following my gut, but it wasn't really even my gut. Even as I'm talking about it, my gut's kind of like acting up. But that's one of the ways that I attempted to break it. Again, in terms of breaking a system, whatever the system told me to do, I would sort of do the opposite just to see for myself. Right, like the system said that I had an undefined heart, meaning that it's my ability to exert my will in the world is going to be inconsistent. And so I put myself in a situation where I had to like show up every day, and that was like in a time when I was doing work with men specifically, and I'd work these retreats that were sometimes 4 or 5 days long. And to be a facilitator on these retreats, you kind of got to show up every day and dictate what goes on, because a lot of these guys that are showing up, they don't know what's going on, and you have to be the one to dictate. And if you don't dictate it, then they're going to dictate it, and then it's like now they're running the retreat instead of me. That didn't really work for me. I realized it took me a while. It took me a couple years to realize, like, oh, that's not me. I'm not going to wake up and dictate the day every day, especially for a group of people, right? That might be a little bit more in this person's realm because they have this and they have this. I don't have that. I have the 45 and I have the power, right? I have the 34, but I don't have that. And so basically I would put myself in situations, and this was after I had some success with the 28 days waiting thing. And now I literally just live things in 28 days. My partner's like, let's go on a vacation. I'm like, all right, great. Give me 25 days or 28 days to think about it. Someone's like, hey, we want to go start this project. I'm like, cool, give me 28 days to think about it. And so often, the thing just falls through, right? It just falls through. And I'm like, okay, great. That's exactly it. Right. But if the thing does actually come through, and at the end of the 28 days, I'm like, yep, let's do that thing, it's usually a success. This is an example of it. Like TikTok. When I first started doing TikTok and I first started doing lives, I just did it for 28 days. And at the end of the 28 days, I was like, yes, I'm definitely doing this more. This is called the body graph. Oh, damn. It's from Human Design. If you want one, you can generate one on my website. It's totally free. I do have some reports that will help make sense of all this. Um, but it's a very, very deep and complex system. And so what you want to do is you just want to like glean the beginning pieces, which is your strategy and your authority. I always want to change my identity. Any tips? I'm struggling so much with my open identity center and life as a business owner. Oh, dude, I totally feel you. Having an undefined G center as well, I've found so many different ways to change myself while still maintaining like doing the things that I need to do. The Reiki reports are so amazing and informative. I highly recommend. Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate you. Appreciate you for saying that. That's awesome. Yeah, again, like I said, I made these reports so that like it would save you a lot of money, because I spent a lot of money not just learning human design, but like in my spiritual awakening. I like traveled, I trained with people. And not to say don't do that, but what I'm saying is like have a method of doing that. That's yours. Have a strategy in picking teachers, right? Don't just like pick a teacher because everyone else picks them. Pick a teacher because your gut goes or because you heard them say something that you felt like was a recognition and an invitation for you, or like something like that. Like have a strategy when it comes to picking a teacher or choosing an event to do for yourself. Don't just do it because everybody else says you should do it, or because everybody else is doing it, right? But when it comes to the undefined G center, right? One of the things that I like to do is, I really like to explore all the different options and scenarios. And it's just like literal, like I'll just have a page, or I use like a Miro board, like a mind map, and I'll just like blast all of the directions that I can consider going with things, or the things that I want to do. And then from there, I then start to kind of like arrange it and organize it. Because again, the undefined G center is picking up the directions of all the people around you. And so, what then, after I've blasted that, just like got it all on paper or out of my head, I'll then circle the things that are actually like relevant for me in my business and what I'm doing in the direction that I want to move in. And then I'll write the person's name or the organization's name next to some of the things that are not necessarily, because you'll find like half of the things that you're pulled to do are not even relevant to you, right? And you're not going to notice that until you get them out on paper, like right in front of you. Then you can see clearly, like, oh, why would I want to open up that business? So and so wants to open up a business like that. Now I'm feeling like I need to move in that direction because so and so wants to move in that direction, and I think they need my help. Okay, great. Let me not do that, right? Because again, it's about discerning whether or not something is actually relevant to you, or it's relevant to somebody else. And if it's relevant to somebody else, it doesn't mean that it's not relevant at all. It just means that, again, don't move in that direction. Because then what you can do is you can send text messages like, hey, you know, I felt really inspired to, you know, stoke you on this business that you want to do. Right. Especially as a business person. And there's so many different things we can do as business people. And one of the key things that we don't want to get attached to is like why we're doing our business. Because again, it's like identity. Like, oh, if you have an identity, what is that identity? For somebody with an undefined G center, that identity is supposed to change. It's supposed to be comprised of other people's things. Now, when it comes to activities, you have to do activities that are in alignment with who you are, or what it is what results you want to get. Yeah, I want to turn this light on. Oh, like that's not going to reach. Oh, but we are at 100 now. What fields of study helped you to step into your own person? NRL, you are brilliant. You have some really great questions. I appreciate that. Um, what fields of study helped you to step into your own person? So martial arts was the first thing that I studied. The second thing that I started studying was music. Then I got into Reiki. Then I got into human design. Then I got into biomechanics. So those are my 5 things: martial arts, music, Reiki, human design, and biomechanics. Right. And in terms of fields of study, like academically, one of the things that kind of cracked me open in college was doing a symbolic logic course, which was literally like taking an argument like the cat went into the house. There's water inside the house. Therefore, the cat is drinking. Like that's a not true statement. Because just because there's water in the house and the cat went in the house, it doesn't mean that the cat is drinking, right? So that would be like A plus B equals C. And symbolic logic was really cool because it broke things down, and it made things really easy to break. Like for instance, if I wait 28 days and something comes into my field and I wait the 28 days, I will make the proper decision. I've never made, I would say that I've never made the wrong decision in waiting 28 days for me personally. This is also things that I'm tracking, right? I've watched. So for instance, another example of an equation would be like, Jeremy as a sacral being. Jeremy gets a gut response, like a negative gut response to going to this event. Therefore, Jeremy should not go to the event. That's a true statement. Because if Jeremy goes to the event, he's probably going to be frustrated. Then you can ask, why is Jeremy frustrated? Well, because he didn't go to his gut. Well, he didn't follow his gut? Well, what about his gut did he not follow? What was he tuning into that was so Because once you get there, it's like, once you're there, you're there. Like, when I was in college, I didn't really want to be in college, but once I was there, I was like, I'm going to make the most of this. And so like one of the things that I did right before I dropped out was I stopped going to classes, and I was like, no one's coming after me. Then I started going to other people's classes and being like, the professor doesn't realize that I'm not in their class. Granted, they were big, they were big classes. Um, but it was funny because what I realized is like everyone is so concerned with themselves, no one's really paying attention to what's going on around them. But people are so concerned with themselves based off of how everybody else is looking at them, not actually what's relevant to them, which is why eventually I fell in love with human design. Love that. Such an interesting mix. What were the most interesting lessons from each field? So martial arts taught me how not to or how to use fear to become stronger, and also just like how to be in my body and be confident and to feel safe walking around. Music taught me how to like flow and like listen and be able to work with something that's already working with, which for a projector, or sorry, for a reflector like myself, that was probably one of the most valuable lessons, was the ability to like listen, because I can kind of read music, but I'm really good at just like, oh, you're playing this and then you go to this and then you go to this, and I can just play along with you. um Also like improv in terms of music, like I love just like improving with my friends, it's so fun. Next was going to be human design, which kind of verified a lot of the things that I knew growing up, which was like I'm a little bit different, I make my decisions, I don't have an immediate like answer to a lot of questions in terms of like, do you want to do this, do you want to do that. And I was also really good at kind of like, intuiting what was going to happen or what people wanted, etc. So human design verified a lot of that, and then it also gave me a language to learn about all of this kinds of stuff. Reiki literally just saved me from like depression and severe anxiety. The biggest lesson Reiki taught me was that you get what you put in, you get out of life what you put into it, and we become what we put into ourselves. So a lot of, consuming how you say, very like fear-based stuff, like conspiracy theory stuff on YouTube. I had to stop watching that stuff even though I loved it, and I started watching history. I started learning about meditation. I started learning about frequencies and sound healing. And actually, I got into sound healing, which taught me how to listen even deeper. And then I also, with Reiki, it taught me the simplicity of our hands as human beings and the power of like just putting your hands on your face when your head hurts, right? Like if you have head tension, it's not like, oh, go away, tension. It's like, okay, relax into the tension, melt into the tension. Taught me how to accept things with my hands, literally like this. Because if someone is handing you shit, right? Like I'll tell you guys a Zen story, which is kind of fun. So there's these Zen Buddhists go to a restaurant, and the um, the waiter comes, and she brings hot coals, and she's like making their, it's like one of those hibachi grills or whatever. And one of the one of the head monks, he calls the waiter over, and he grabs the tongs, and he grabs one of the coals, and he puts it out like he's about to hand it to her. And so she, being polite, she puts her hands out, and he drops the coal in her hands, and she quickly rushes to the bathroom, throws the whole, throws the coal into the sink. And she goes, oh, I'm gonna play a trick on the Zen master now. This time I'm going to go hand him a coal like he just handed me a coal. And so, and it's funny, it's like Japanese people are very polite. But anyway, she goes up and she grabs a coal, and she hands it to him the same way he handed to her with the tongs. But instead of the monk putting his hands out, he takes a cigarette and he lights it on the coal, and he just starts smoking, which is like, again, you can accept things in different ways, but totally so super loose correlation. That was weird and funny. But Reiki taught me about being able to receive things with my hands and accept reality with my hands. And then biomechanics, like it taught me how to be human again. It taught me how to apply a critical thinking mind to the natural world and how to emulate nature in a simple way. So anyway, those are my things. And Oriel, again, great questions. I really appreciate the questions. So I'm actually we're going to start winding down this live, guys. This has been really incredible. Let's see, what do we make it to? 22,000 likes, which is pretty impressive, guys. Appreciate every single tap that you guys had. What we're going to do now is we're going to shift to a subscriber only live. Okay, so anybody that wants to continue to go live for the next half hour or so, make sure that you subscribe. If you're not already following me, please, I want to invite you to follow. Keep up with my work. I've got a lot of exciting things coming for you during this next year. That's going to be evolving. It's a very interesting time right now with an election, and so a lot of this stuff is going to come kind of post-election because that will help determine in a lot of ways where the energy is going to be flowing. But this was a lot of fun. Thank you guys. Like I said, thank you so much for the likes. Thank you for your attention. Most of all, thank you for your attention because there's so many other things that you could be doing right now. But the fact that you're here learning about human design is just really incredible. So with that being said, again, if you need any human design resources or you want to book a session with me, just visit my website, reikimarco.com. I've got reports. You can generate your body graph there. I've got an app for you guys. I've got sessions for you. I've got a community for learning biomechanics and all the stuff that I was talking about. It's called the Archive. And also, we're going to be back here live again Wednesday and Friday at 9 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So from Reiki Marco, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Hawaii Standard Time, we're going to be going live for about an hour, hour and a half, and then we're gonna shift. We might shift schedules starting next month. Again, I move in 28-day cycles, and so far October has been lit. I did just get back from vacation, so this feels how you say like I'm just getting like revved up again. So hopefully I'll see you guys on Wednesday or on Friday, which is the next time that I'm going live. And for everyone that's not subscribed, I will see you on Wednesday or Friday. And for those of you that are subscribed, we are just going to keep talking for another 15-20 minutes. What is going on out there? Is that a goat or a horse? All right, guys. Aloha. See you next time. All right.